This is tutorial number 119, and it covers how to create the guitar constraint assembly within Catia V5. To start off, open up a new product file. Now, once you've done that, what we're going to be doing is using all of the constraint features to constrain all the components of the guitar together to create the assembly. So what we're going to do first is insert a part. So let's click Insert, click Existing Component, click Product 2, and let's click the bass. Click Open, and now we have our bass. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fix it down because we're going to bring in all the other components around it and place it onto the bass. So let's click Fix, click the bass, and now we have our first constraint. Now under the Constraints tab, you're going to find all of the other constraints we're going to add in. So now that we have it constrained and fixed down, let's bring in the other components in. So let's click Insert, click Existing Component with Positioning, click Product 2, and let's bring in the plate. Click Open, and just move it around so that it's not hidden underneath the guitar base. Click OK, and now let's add some constraints. So what we need to do is I've created a few pilot extrudes here. So these extruded circles are going to have to go into these cutout circles, and then we're going to have to create a coincident constraint between these two extrudes and circles, and then we have to make a contact constraint between the two faces. So let's start off with the circles. Let's click coincident constraint, and what you have to do is just place it over until you get the axis line. So click that axis line, and we'll click this axis line. So we have our first constraint. Click coincident constraint again, and we'll click this face here, and we'll do the same to this one here. Now we got both of our pilot holes and extrudes lined up, so let's click Update, and now they're lined up with one another. Now let's click the contact constraint, and we'll click this face here and this face here, click Update, and now we've got our plate positioned correctly on the base. Now let's bring in another component, so let's click Insert, click Existing Component with Positioning, click Product 2, and for this one let's bring in the bars, click Open, and now we've got the bars to position. Click OK. Now if you look under here, there's 6 pilot extrudes that I made, and on the plate there's 6 pilot holes. Now when positioning this though, because rather than having individual parts for each one, I made it in one part, all we have to do is use 2 holes to position it. So whenever I'm using whenever there's say multiple holes like this, and all I need is 2 holes or extrudes to position, so I'm going to pick 2 that are on a diagonal from one another. By choosing 2 that are on a diagonal like that, you're able to position and lock it in. So let's click coincident, and let's choose this one here, and we'll choose this one here. Now we'll click coincident again, and we'll choose this one here, and we'll choose this one here. Now in the last one I used 2 steps. I did the holes, then I updated, then I did the contact constraint, but you can do it all in one shot too if you know what's going on. So I'm going to do the contact constraint too now. So I'm going to click this face and this face. I'm going to update, and everything gets locked into position. Now let's bring in another component. So let's click Insert, Existing Component with Positioning, and this time let's click the knobs, click Open, and just position them so you have access to them. Click OK, and let's rotate it around. And again with this, instead of creating each individual one, I created all 3 in one part file, so All we need to do again is use 2 of the circles to position it rather than using all 3. So we'll click coincident, and we'll click to get the axis, flip it around, and we'll do the same over here. Click coincident, and we'll line up the axes again. And we'll do the contact constraint too. So we'll click this face, click update, and now we have our knobs positioned correctly. Now let's click insert, and we'll bring in another component, so existing component with positioning. Click product 2, and let's bring in the plug. Click open, and just move it out to the side until you can see it. Click OK. Now let's position this guy too. So we'll click contact constraint, click this face, and then we'll click a coincident constraint. We'll click this line, and let's rotate this around, and we'll click this point. Click update, and now we've got our plug sitting in the slot there. Now let's bring in another component. Let's click insert, existing component with positioning, and for this one let's bring in the mount. Click open, and just move it out to the side again so you can see it. Click OK, and this mount is going to go onto these 2 holes here. So let's line up the holes, and we'll snap it onto this face here. So let's click coincident constraint, click that circle, and we'll click this circle here, and we'll do the same to the other one. Click that face there, and we'll click this face here. Now we'll do the contact ones too. So click the bottom face there, and we'll click the top face of the plate here. Click update, and now we have the mount at the back. So now we have all of the little parts mounted onto the plate and the base. So now we're going to have to bring in the neck and the strings. So let's bring in the neck. So click insert, existing component with positioning, click product 2, and let's click the neck, click open, and just move it around a little bit. So just move the neck around just so we can play around and get the positioning on it. So we'll click OK. And now let's mate this neck. So let's click contact constraint, click this face here, and click this face here. So contact that face and that face. Click update. Now once you make it, I want you to delete it just because of the geometry and such with this guitar. To position in the place I want, I need to make a contact constraint here and then delete it so it kind of remembers, and then put the other ones in. If not, it's going to create a few errors. So we're just going to delete this, click contact, then we're going to click this face and this face, click contact, click this face and this face, click update, and now we have our neck in the position that we want. So now let's bring in the knobs at the end. So let's click insert, existing component with positioning, and let's bring in the end mount. Click open, and it's already near the end there. Now you're able to move it around if you need to, so just move it around, click OK, and let's line these circles up. So click coincident, click that circle there, and do the same at the end. And this is just like the other part. You can do each of these as individuals. I threw it all into one part so that it's easy to assemble. Click update, and now they're lined up. Now I'm going to click the offset constraint, and I'm going to click this face here to this face here, and I'm going to make it 10, click OK, click Update, and as you can see it's too far up, so go down to that constraint, double click on it, change it to 0, click OK, update it, and now it's in the position we want. Now when we put the strings in, we can move this up and down if we want to create a better look and better positioning. So now the last thing what we have to do is bring in the strings. So let's click Insert, Existing Component with Positioning, click the strings, click Open, and click OK. Now the strings are already positioned, they're all up top there. So the first constraint we're going to do is click Contact and zoom in to the strings and just touch one of the faces. And we're going to make it touch the back end here. Click Update, and the strings are up top there, but they're in line. Now we'll click Contact again, zoom in on the strings, and try to get a touch on it. And we'll zoom in and just touch one of these faces here. Click OK, click Update, and now it's going to be tangent to the surface there. Now what we're going to do on the last one is we're going to do an offset. So click Offset, and again zoom into these strings, click one, and click the end face here. Now right now it's at negative 157, so let's put it to negative 20. Click OK, click Update, and now what we're going to have to do is just move it around and position it to get the best look and feel. So I think we're going to have to move it over maybe 10, so let's double click on it and let's make it negative 30. Click OK, click Update, and that looks like it was too much, so make it 25. Click OK, Update, and maybe just a bit more. So let's try negative 26. Click OK, Update, and that looks about right. And if you go all the way to the end, you can see that they line up nicely. So with this last one, you're just able to kind of move it around and just position it to the look and feel, and just move it around to fit the rest of the parts and components. So what we've done in this tutorial is we've brought all the components together using constraints, and using a constraint we've fully constrained this entire assembly of creating the guitar. So by pulling in all these different components, and from the lessons that we learned before, we were successfully able to create this guitar. And that concludes our tutorial on the guitar constraint assembly within Catia V5.